Hey everybody, how we doing? Mr. Hancock here. This video is for the final unit in our Comp One this semester. It's Unit Three. You'll notice that because I was looking at our calendar, adding up where we're going to be going for the next so many weeks. It wouldn't be very smart on my part to try to cram 2 units into that. I'd rather just give extra time for this final research essay unit. That way you can get a really good grounding in preparation for Comp 2. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go from week 9 all the way to the end, focusing on this one particular unit. It will have the writing process will be worth more points. We'll have other writing pieces and everything, so we'll still be getting the same amount of points, except you won't be doing 2 separate essays. It'll all be focusing on adding up to the one research essay, okay? So, looking here real quick, here we are with Unit 9. You'll notice always follow your checklist, and what you're going to have here is you have a couple handouts and this video, which isn't showing up just yet because I'm making it, and then you got your week 9 discussion. So let's go ahead and jump right on in to this assignment here. All right, there it is. It is a persuasive essay. It's an argumentative essay. Technically, y'all, the last essay we just did, the song analysis, is a persuasive essay. So a lot of the same handouts, a lot of the same approach you're going to do to have to this is going to be what you just did in your last paper. So we're just going to get more exercise with that. The main difference here is you're going to incorporate secondary sources, which I'll discuss here in a moment. All right. All right, so there it is, outline on November 11th. So it's on week 11, so that means we got week 9, 10, and 11 to prep that up. So we got 3 weeks to get your outline ready here. The following week will be your rough draft, and then you'll notice this essay is actually going to be done by week 13. That's right before we go to Thanksgiving break. And that means when we come back, we'll have like a week or so in finals week actually to put together our portfolios. I'm actually going to start introducing the portfolio within the next couple of weeks. I have videos on that. I have handouts, templates, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that later. That will function as your final exam. So we'll get this paper done completely by week 13. That'll allow us to have the last bit of the class to focus just on doing the portfolios, which is pretty easy. But anyway, here we are. Instructions. This essay will be a persuasive essay. It is a subjective argument used to convince the audience to agree with the author. So let's do this in comparison to our last paper. You are in the last paper we were trying to convince the reader that, hey, this is the message of the song. This is what the song is showing us, and I'll prove it. I'll show you with evidence from the song lyrics, okay? You're going to do the exact same thing now over a different argument. It says this issue, it says your goal is to write this essay arguing for your particular stance and contribution to a current issue. So this current issue can be political, social, cultural, national, global. It doesn't matter. You can go anywhere you want. I do have some suggestions of things to stay away from, but still, you can take it anywhere you want to go. And when you do this, you're going to come in and say, hey, look, we have a problem with this, or this is a situation here, okay? And I'm going to convince you for a particular idea or a point within this. And I'm kind of vague about that because I'm going to I'm going to let you take it to where you want to go, okay? And you have to be blatant, you have to be explicit and opinionated. A lot of people don't want to go into these arguments because they think they're opinions. No, that's what this essay is for. You have to be able to put your opinion out there. However, like we saw in the last one, you have to put your opinion out, but you have to have support, okay? And that's when you come in with logical reasoning, but also with your secondary sources. So back up here, you'll notice 750 word minimum. Everybody should go beyond 750 on this paper. I don't see how in the world you can hit 750 and get the job done. That's a minimum. So 2 secondary sources from credible websites. I'll discuss that here in a few minutes. But you're going to find what we call empirical evidence. You need to have evidence out there that is clear. It is demonstrated through stats and physical evidence and everything like that. Okay, so if I come in and say, you know, people who wear orange jersey or yellow jersey t-shirts are crazy. I can't do that just from my experiential. That's called anecdotal. I can't come in and say, well, everybody I've ever met with orange jersey t-shirts are crazy. That's anecdotal. That's my personal experience. It doesn't matter. I need to be able to provide external evidence that shows that, whether scientific studies, research data, facts, and statistics. I need to be able to come in and use those sources to support that claim. I can't just make it up out of thin air just because I had a bad experience. Never go eat at a Panera Bread because they're rude. Well, what's your evidence, Mr. Hancock? Well, I went there last week and they were mean to me. Well, just because you went in one week and you think they were mean to you doesn't mean that no one should ever eat at a Panera Bread just because, they're mean. So that's why we need more evidence than just one person's experience or a few people's experience, in experiential stuff like that. So I'll give you more information on that there. But you will have two secondary sources. What we mean by secondary sources is like that pretty much your essay is a secondary source. Your last essay, the song analysis, was a secondary source. This is where somebody takes information and produces a conclusion, an analysis and a conclusion on that information. Sorry, I have kids in the background here. If you hear screaming, but so your essay is essentially is a secondary source. So when you bring in secondary sources, you need to bring in other people who have done research or have done analysis and presented conclusions that back you up. That's the thing you got to understand is this is all about backing you up. This essay is your essay. It's your opinion. It's what you were trying to convince your reader to see and understand. Your sources, your secondary sources, are going to back you up. They're the folks behind you saying, "Yeah, we think the same thing." Or we've experienced or we've researched and studied the same. We've come to similar conclusions. They're there to back you up, all right? Not the other way around. So, with that being said here, that's what you're pretty much doing. You're going to use the C method. You're going to have a thesis statement. We won't necessarily use the theme handout in this here. We're going to use the analytical essay writing handout more to try to use the scaffolding to come up with our thesis. And we will try to also we'll focus on using the C method. The C method will work the exact same way. I have a template that will allow you to incorporate secondary sources. I'll discuss that as we go forward. The rest of this handout here, y'all, and I'm going to move along here. This gives you what we call the rhetorical situation in parts of an argument. Things you have to keep in mind. And to be honest with you, if you really look at this, and look at these sections, even though they may have like fancy words and Greek words, that you'll notice that these are naturally things you do when you have a basic argument with someone. The rhetorical situation, you have discourse, what like the topic of discussion is, your goal of an argument. You got to consider who your audience is when you start putting an argument together. Ethos, logos, and pathos. Look at those. Those are appeals that you use to convince your reader. Okay, and then summary versus analysis, and this is something we talked about in detail with the song analysis. You don't summarize your argument. You don't summarize what's going on. You have to analyze points, present evidence, and explain how that evidence proves your thesis to be true. So that's what I have there in that handout there. So that's going back over here. That's what you got to do. That's what you're going to be doing with this here. So you want to start beginning your research right now, because when we go down here, notice in week 9, what is a tentative topic for your paper? What topic do you want to try to focus in? What do you hope to argue? Research permitting means that you need to start doing research and looking right now, right off the bat, seeing what's going on, seeing what people are talking about. What do you hope you can possibly argue? This is not set in stone. This is just us brainstorming and thinking about where we may want to go with this paper. And then number 3, provide a link to one possible, not set in stone, but a possible source for your paper, okay? So this is important. We want to start research and we want to start looking at sources right now before we start writing this paper. A lot of students make a big mistake and they'll start writing the paper now with an argument in their head, and then they'll go look for sources to back them up. That's when it becomes a nightmare. That's when students have, oh, I can't find any sources, things like that. And I'll give you more information on that later, but the point is this: research and you formulating your argument and putting your paper together, they happen at the same time. You have to begin research right now and let that research help guide you into what point you want to argue. Okay, so you have to start researching now, so that you may definitely go forward this week keeping a week 9 discussion in the front of your mind. Now This handout on evaluating sources, I'm not going to go super deep into this, but I do want to show it to you really quick, if I can pull it up. There it is, evaluating sources. Okay, it says Comp 2. I use this on, All right, so for this paper, I want you to use just basic websites, okay? However, not all websites are good. Many are very bad. And you have to think in your mind, what is their goal? And there are many things to consider before you start just going to any random website and grabbing sources to back you up. Because remember, it's kind of like that saying, birds of a feather flock together. So, like, if you grab a bad source, if you grab a source that's known for lying and giving bad information, fake news is the cool thing to call it now, then you are going to be associated with spreading that bad information. So you want to really keep that in mind and evaluate your source before you use it to back you up, okay? So here are some points that you need to think about when you go into picking certain sources. Relevance. Is this even relevant to the point that I'm making? Author's ethos. Who is the author? Is the author known for moral character or not? I remember there's this one political, I say that, writer for Rolling Stone, and he was a hack. He still writes for him. He puts books out, but I've read stuff in Rolling Stone he's done, and he is vindictive. He's hateful, and I've caught him reading it just regardless of my personal political opinions. He just lies and misrepresents people, and so I know if anything is ever written by that guy, I don't want it. Bias. Everybody's got bias. Everybody has a lean towards some opinion. So that's not a bad thing. But if your bias gets in the way of the truth, and that's a problem. So keep that in mind. Publisher. Who's publishing this? And that's fine. Just got to keep that in mind. Level and audience. That's very important. So if I'm writing an essay for a bunch of doctors over at, say, UAMS, I'm not going to grab a highlights magazine. You see what I mean? That's extreme, but you get the point. You want to keep in mind, what is this source? Who's this source written for? And can I use it for my audience? Currentness. This is important, especially if you're going for current stats and data of what's going on right now. You don't want to go back and find, oh, well, this was the level of crime in Little Rock back in 2003. That's almost 20 years ago. That's no good. So you want to make sure the content that's coming out is very current and happening right now, okay? Testability. You want to make sure, and this is like when it comes to really like scientific research in a way. Test the sources, research, and findings. Look into the points that they're making, and you make the decision. Man, are they really drawing a good conclusion? Like, how in the world they get that conclusion from their information? I'm so skeptical from that. And also professionalism. Honestly, check for cursing, perverted language, and just offensive language. Look and see, like, are there tons of weird looking ads all over what is the website looking like? Just really kind of keep that stuff in mind, because I'm telling you, if it's a lot of cussing, if it's a lot of, unprofessional, weird language, it's probably something you want to be associated with, and it's probably something not going to give you good information. So anyway, I also have a little checklist here, evaluation checklist, if you want to look at that. So just, y'all, you just have to be critical. You have to be skeptical in a way, and you have to be critical of your sources when you're going in to pick them out. I always recommend .edus, .orgs are good, .gov. Definitely if you're looking for stats, like some people may be looking into crime and things like that, going to the FBI, Department of Justice and stuff like that. They have specific data, lots of really, really deep research. You can go areas like that. I'm not saying a .com is bad or a .net is bad. That's not necessarily the case. But just be skeptical, be critical, and choose that whatever you pick is going to be something that's going to look good on your part. Okay. All right, y'all. That's week 9. That's where we're going. There it is. If you have any questions or anything at all, please let me know, and I'll talk to you later.